Imagine for a moment that we can step back in time to walk the streets of a city being born. This is Sydney in the 19th century, a raw, vibrant, and rapidly transforming colonial capital. From its convict beginnings, it exploded into a bustling metropolis of nearly 400,000 souls by the 1890s. A city of stark contrasts where grandeur and grit existed side by side. Today, with the aid of AI reconstruction, we can peel back the layers of modern glass and steel to witness this earlier incarnation. We can hear the clatter of hooves on stone, smell the salt air mixed with coal smoke, and see the sunlight glint off Sydney's distinctive honey-colored sandstone. This is not just a history lesson. It's a journey into a living, breathing past. So, let's step into the machine and see Sydney as it was. Our journey begins at the water's edge. At Sydney Cove, this deep, sheltered harbor is the city's reason for being. The water is a constant dance of movement. Sleek steam ferries chuff across to the North Shore, while towering sailing ships, their masts a forest against the sky, unload cargo from across the globe. The air is thick with the cries of wharf laborers, the creak of ropes, and the pervasive smell of salt, tar, and exotic spices. Rising steeply behind the quay is the Rocks, the birthplace of European Sydney. This is a neighborhood of narrow, crooked lanes and precarious staircases carved into the sandstone cliff. The buildings here are a jumble of early wattle and daub structures and more permanent sandstone cottages, from which the area gets its name. The atmosphere is dense and lively, but undeniably rough. This was the original slum frequented by sailors, convicts, and prostitutes. By the late 19th century, it was dominated by the notorious Rocks push gang, a volatile element in a volatile place. Standing here, you feel the precarious energy of a district that lived hand to mouth, where a tavern brawl could spill into the street at any moment. Yet, there's also a stubborn sense of community in these cramped terraces, a world away from the ordered avenues being laid out just to the east. From the Rocks, we move on to George Street, Sydney's original high street, and its pulsing commercial heart. This is where the city energy concentrates. The street is a cacophony of sound and motion. Horse-drawn omnibuses and delivery carts clatter over the uneven stone pavement, their drivers shouting to clear a path. By 1899, electric trams would add their distinctive hum to this symphony. The sidewalks are a river of people, well-dressed merchants in top hats, shop girls on errands, hawkers selling newspapers, and sailors on shore leave. The architecture tells the story of Sydney's growing wealth. Modest two-story shops with colorful awnings give way to more imposing 3- and 4-story buildings of stuccoed brick and ornate sandstone facades. The ground floors are a panorama of commerce, butchers, grocers, drapers, and ironmongers. The upper floors, house offices, lodgings, and workshops. The smell is a unique urban blend: fresh bread from a bakery, coffee from a cafe, the earthy scent of horses, and the ever-present dust. This street is the city's spine, connecting the maritime chaos of the Rocks to the emerging civic dignity further south. It's a relentless, thrilling spectacle of colonial ambition. A sharp turn east leads us to a very different Sydney, Macquarie Street. This is Governor Lachlan Macquarie's vision made stone, a ceremonial thoroughfare designed to proclaim order and permanence. Here, the noise of George Street fades into a more stately rhythm. The street is lined with elegant, tree-shaded buildings that house the machinery of colony and state. On one side stands the Hyde Park Barracks, a severe but handsome Georgian building that once housed convicts. Opposite is the graceful spire of St. James Church. Further along is the Rum Hospital, built in 1816 through a curious deal involving convict, labor, and rum monopolies. Its wings would later become the Sydney Mint and the Parliament House. For New South Wales, this street became the Harley Street of Sydney, lined with the consulting rooms of prestigious doctors and lawyers. The most spectacular sight, however, was the Garden Palace, built for the 1879 Sydney International Exhibition. This vast exhibition hall of glass and iron once dominated the skyline. AI reconstruction allows us to see its grandeur before it was tragically lost to fire just a few years later. Reminder of the fragility of even the grandest ambitions. Adjacent to Macquarie Street lies Hyde Park, Australia's oldest public parkland. This is Sydney's green heart, a necessary escape from the urban bustle. Its 19th century layout was formal and orderly, with straight gravel paths radiating under magnificent avenues of spreading Moreton Bay fig trees. On a sunny afternoon, the park is a scene of leisurely Victorian life, couples promenading, children playing under the watchful eyes of nannies, and gentlemen reading newspapers on road-iron benches. But this genteel scene belies a deeper history. This land was once an important Aboriginal contest ground, a site for ritualized conflict resolution observed by early European explorers. Later, it served as a common grazing ground and a military exercising field. By the mid-1800s, it was the city's premier sporting ground, hosting cricket matches that captivated the public. The park holds these layers of history within its borders. From ancient ceremony to colonial recreation, it's a place where the city both remembered and forgot. Returning to the water, we see Sydney's lifeblood, its harbour, without a bridge. Until 1932, the world's largest ferry fleet connected the city. The cross-harbour routes were constantly busy, most famously the Manly Ferry, which negotiated the swells of the Sydney Heads. On the western side of the city, Darling Harbour. It was a forest of masts and a maze of wharves. This was the industrial and commercial engine dominated by the wool trade. Great brick warehouses, known as wool stores, lined the waterfront, their contents awaiting shipment to mills in England. The air here was different, denser, with the smell of damp timber, wool grease, and the coal smoke from countless steam winches. It was a landscape of hard physical labor, a stark counterpoint to the leisurely green domain on the eastern shore. Sydney's growth was not without peril. In the early hours of October 2, 1890, a lurid glare erupted from a printing warehouse on Hosking Place, just off Pitt Street. The Great Fire of Sydney had begun. Fed by flammable inks and paper, the flames spread with terrifying speed, exploding windows and leaping across the shingle roofs of adjacent buildings. Soon, a crowd of 10,000 horrified onlookers, gathered as fire brigades, 25 in totals, struggled to contain the inferno. Historic clubs, banks, and warehouses were gutted. The night was lit by an apocalyptic orange glow, punctuated by the crash of falling walls and the shouts of firefighters. Miraculously, no lives were lost, but the financial damage was immense. From this ashes, however, rose a new vision, the desire to create a grand civic thoroughfare from the destruction, which would eventually become Martin Place. The fire was a brutal catalyst, forcing the city to rethink its dense, haphazard core. Behind the landmarks and disasters were the people. Sydney's population swelled from about 95,600 in 1861 to nearly 387,000 by 1891. This exploding populace was packed into endless rows of terrace houses, their ornate iron lacework fronting narrow, often poorly sanitized streets. The city exhibited a clear geographic divide. The working class and poor crowded into areas west of the original tank stream, like the Rocks, while the more affluent built gracious homes in the eastern suburbs. The discovery of gold in 1851 supercharged the economy, bringing wealth, but also disruption, as workers flocked to the fields. The boom funded magnificent new public buildings like the Australian Museum, the Town Hall, and the University of Sydney. Yet the 1890s brought a severe economic depression, leaving many in poverty. This was a city of incredible dynamism and profound inequality, where the hopeful immigrant, the wealthy merchant, the struggling factory worker, and the political reformer all navigated the same streets, each living a different version of the colonial dream. And so, our AI reconstruction fades. The sounds of horse-drawn carts and ferry whistles give way to the silence of history. Standing here today, it's almost impossible to grasp the sheer volatility, ambition, and daily struggle that defined 19th century Sydney. It was a city perpetually under construction, both physically and socially. Wrestling with its identity between a penal past and a federated future, this virtual journey reminds us that cities are not static backdrops, but living entities, shaped by countless individual stories, grand designs, and random calamities like fire. What we've seen is just one frame in a much longer film. What period of history, in Sydney or elsewhere, would you like to see reconstructed next? Share your thoughts. in the comments. Until then, keep exploring the past. It has much to teach us about the present.